All right. So today I am very lucky to be speaking to Maria Uggla from Polestar. So she's the head of CMF. Maria, what does that stand for before we begin?
CMF stands for Color, Material and Finish Design.
Amazing. So I've actually just picked up the Polestar 4 and driven back in it, and I have actually driven the Polestar 3 as well, both of which are amazing interiors.
So
And
glad to
oh, look, it absolutely. I feel like the fanciest lady when I sit in those cars. It's actually really gorgeous. It's something that I noticed when we were talking about the design. I obviously love design. I love the a minimalist aesthetic, shall we say, Scandi aesthetic as well. Was the thought that goes into sustainability and the materials themselves. I've never ever come across a car maker that does that like Polestar does. Can we talk a little bit about the materials in the car, sort of go through them? Because I don't think people really are aware of this. The first thing I actually wanted to ask you about was what is Bridge of Weir leather? Can we start there?
We can start at Bridge Aware. When we, as a car company, decided to stay on leather, we say that we decided that we should not just stay on any leather. We should pick the leather that has the best sustainability set in place, that has the animal welfare secured, that has traceability secured, and that was chrome free.
Right.
So we found Bridge Aware, which is a Scottish leather company, leather supplier, and they only do rest product from food industry. That is also super important for us, and they have fulfilled all our expectations on a leather supplier.
So
And
it's essentially waste, and you're reusing it. What would have happened to
And
that?
we say that it's the most exquisite version of waste, and it's also the oldest. What do you call it when you the oldest way of doing? I can't remember the word for it. When you take something that you actually throw away and use it for another purpose.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
the animals that are used in the Bridgeware leather, they come only from UK and Denmark, and they have the highest standard of animal welfare with the 5 freedoms secured, and also then traceability down to farm level. And this was something that we decided that we wanted to go for and that they could deliver on. And they also deliver for high-end fashion brand,
Hmm.
Mulberry.
Oh, wow. Okay. So actually, that's something that I noticed when the designers were talking about the Polestar 3 when I was on that launch. The traceability is really important with Polestar, isn't it? You really do. The
Yes,
blockchain.
yes.
I've just never seen anything like it. It's just
No.
extraordinary. Uh, so moving on to what is Microtech?
Microtech is actually a grain, but it's a grain that we have used as a name for our bio-attributed vinyl. And there is a lot of this. What we try to get into all our design is to have a consciousness on the material and the impact of that material we choose, both the material and the process we use, I would say. And when for the Microtech bio-attributed vinyl, we have said to our vinyl supplier that they need to use this type of bio-attributed PVC from a tier 2 supplier who have found a way to take waste from the forest industry and transform it into biomethanol, and then have that biomethanol going into the crackers. So we have a certification on that the material we use have this 100% of this biomethanol, and then we also have it on recycled polyester. So it's the backing of the materials.
So I noticed in the Polestar 4 that you're using innovations from the footwear industry. How are you doing that?
That's a quite long story. I don't know if you want to hear the full story, but since we have this material, recycled polyester, which is we wanted to make a usage out of it, and textile and automotive cars on upholstery are normally used for entry level and could look quite boring. But we wanted to elevate it and make it into something more modern and something more relevant for the time we are in, and got inspired by the Nike Flyknit shoes that was produced at 2012, I think it was, and that has been replicated all over the shoe industry, and you could find these amazing shoes, which is then knitted to shape with different structures. So it's like a whole little world in just a small piece. And the idea of having different structure coming together without seam, knitting to one shape, and to have this fantastic expression was something we wanted for our Polestar 4 cars. So we paired up with a shoe supplier in Germany and did some terrible looking trials, and then we tried to make our textile supplier do trials. They didn't have the machinery, so they need to invest, and they needed to rent, and those looked even worse. And it looked like you put a sock on top of the seat. But then in the end, we found Swedish University of Textile in Borås, who had all the equipment, fantastic technicians, and we could start to develop together with them. And then we were there for full days, doing loads of programming, knitting out, trying. We had a seat in the room doing trials, and managed to crack the code so that we could do something that it was to translate something that we saw on a smaller object to something that could look good on the post. Did you have the tailor knit in your
No, not in the one that I've got. But I looked good. I saw it in the video. It looked amazing what you've been doing. The thought that goes into what you do, it actually blows my mind. Like it really does. That I go along to all these other car launches, and it's fantastic that we're moving to electrification. But I think at the same time, we need to really address things like what you're doing, the waste, or just the thought they just pump materials out without a thought. And I think we're making a mistake if we do that. Well, driving cars full stop is a mistake if we just focus on that. We need to also decarbonize, obviously, and invest in active transport and public transport. But it is amazing to see a company like Polestar really want to change things. And I saw that beautiful backing of the car seat with that amazing weave through it. And I just thought, that is just extraordinary. Why isn't everyone doing that? Why?
We don't know what they're doing now. Maybe they do.
Maybe.
No, but I think it is important that not just automotive industry, but all brands who produce product need to rethink materials. They need to understand the impact of materials. They need to understand the impact of production, and need to set a new standard. We need to set a new standard on how to use materials. And I mean, to find the material that could be kept in a loop, that has the lowest climate impact, look at the transparency as we have done, but also finding out in what we work on with inclusion, understanding what are the people actually mining this material, what is the working environment. So understanding the full. We have these 4 sustainability focus areas. So it's the climate, it's the circularity, it is the transparency, and it's the inclusion. And I think that what I'm mostly happy with is that sustainability is not an add-on at Polestar. It is something that goes all through the company, and that we are all standing behind from top down. Yeah. So because I don't believe in this doing a green line or doing something that looks sustainable, but this it needs to be the real deal.
Yeah, it is the real deal. Even things like I noticed you use recycled steel in the vehicle as well. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, on the chassis, we are constantly pushing because we know that that electric and the electric components and the chassis, the steel and the aluminium, is the big hurdles. So I mean, there it needs to be a big change, and for us to understand what is the biggest hurdle, the LCA analyze, the life cycle assessment analyze that we have published has helped us a lot.
Yeah. Would you say that Polestar is the most, sorry to talk in absolutes, but would you say that Polestar is the most sustainable car brand?
I think for me that is super hard to say because I mean I haven't read the other cars lifestyle analyst. I just know the work we are doing, and I know that we try to be conscious on everything we put into our car and trying to understand, trying to get the facts, trying to always improve. We have this sustainability upgrade that we're working on, where we say that if one of our supplier could create a better version of their material, and we are able to put it in without having to redo all expensive tests, then we would like to replace it. And that we have got loads of compliments because that actually drives innovation for them as well, and drives development.
The thing that I noticed when I went to the Polestar 3 launch, the most extraordinary fact that jumped out at me was that the carbon emissions from the Polestar 3, which was a bigger car, was less than the Polestar 2. Now, to me, that is an unbelievable achievement. That is just something to be absolutely screamed from the rooftops, because you can see a company that's constantly trying to lower their emissions and think about those things. And I think that is something to absolutely be celebrated. There you go.